Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today the week just finished. Of course, the market is closed. So let's go over, see what happened and what we can expect moving forward into next week. So again, this was a weird Friday because it was again opex, right? Essentially a bunch of options expiring, like literally a couple trillion or something like that. Quite a bit. So that's why it was a bit of a strange day, but nonetheless, let's go over and see what we can expect for Tesla in the upcoming week and next week, and the market in general, really. But yeah, so if you guys enjoy, find it useful, informative, don't forget to hit that like. But let's just jump straight into it, ladies and gentlemen. So Tesla ending the day actually down only 0.13%, which isn't bad considering at the bottom, I think it was down about like maybe 3 to 4%, somewhere around that range. I forgot exactly, but it was down around 3 to 4% around this bottom area over here. So the fact that it recovered with the market's now only down 1.17, not as well as the market, but nonetheless pretty well. Oh, sorry, the market didn't recover as well as Tesla, but so Tesla is just showing, I have to say, phenomenal strength. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little annoying for me, mainly because I wanted to focus on want to sell puts against it, which is a bullish position, and I also want to maybe get some shares. So I wanted to go down, but it's not. However, like again, I'm trying to throw all biases aside. I still strongly believe it will, and that's pretty much why I'm not buying at the very moment, because I really do think it will. Mainly because I still first of all, that's one within the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 trading days or candles. 8 of them are green, first and foremost. That's number one. 8 of them are green. That doesn't mean the day itself was green. Like for instance, today, it's a green candle, but the day wasn't actually green, right? It was still technically a red day. The point is the fact that it ended higher than it opened, like 8 days almost in a row, right? Which is a lot. Like it's been showing a tremendous strength. It's been pretty much going against the market. Look at this market going straight down, and Tesla like barely, like pretty much not at all actually. Like it's pretty much not going down, right? So it's showing tremendous strength, but I'm personally very curious to see how it's going to act starting next week, because now all these options are out of the way. All these options have are done. We'll see how that affects it next week. Monday should be interesting as well, because some of the options can get exercised on the Monday, and depending on that, it can make Tesla maybe go up even more a little bit. So it will be kind of interesting to see what happens. But nonetheless, let's go over the major things we care about. 21 EMA still above that, in between the green and the white line in the Bollinger Band, up above the 50 and the 200, and we're up above the short-term moving averages. So I mean, again, throwing away biasness on the technical standpoints, just through these indicators right here. Yeah, Tesla's not looking bad. Tesla is really not looking all that bad. It really just isn't, plain and simple, right? So I still at the very least expect it to come down to somewhere around this like 293-ish area, and I really want to see how it reacts around there. I would be surprised if we don't at least retest this line one more time, because again, ultimately guys, I still want to make this clear, because I expect the market to still ultimately go substantially lower. I'm not really playing puts. I tried playing a few puts to day trade. It's just not my thing, right? Even though I expect the market to go lower, I'm just not someone that likes to play puts or even calls in terms of buying them. I like selling them. I hate buying them. It's just not my style, right? I'm just very bad at holding them, regardless of how strong I believe a move will come. I'm just not very good at holding it. Is what it is, right? However, with that being said and done, I personally still strongly believe that Tesla will, still make its way down with the market in general. Though I have to say, it is showing some pretty incredible strength so far. So essentially, what we can the thing is this is why the market's a little bit difficult right now to really truly predict. Even though I think we've been doing a fantastic job at predicting it, this is why it's pretty difficult though at the very moment, because you can incorporate this move today as two different things, right? If you're a bull and you want to see it from a bull biasness, you can just pretty much pretend that this is essentially going to be another kind of bull flag, where you kind of went up from here all the way up here. Now you're setting up a potential bull flag, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, 5, who knows, right? Something like that. And it's potential bull flag. Like, you can easily make that argument. Or if you want to look at it from a bearish perspective, you can make the argument that today's movement was nothing more than just a bear flag, where essentially you went from down here. So essentially here, watch. So essentially you can argue that it's a bull flag like this. Ignore these two red lines here, and you can argue that this is a bull flag, right? If you want to look at it from a bull's perspective, if you want to look at it from a bear's perspective, you can easily make this argument that, oh, now we have a little bit of a bear flag coming in and we're about to fall down. So that's why it's, in my opinion, a difficult market to predict at the moment, because it's in this weird limbo now. At least Tesla is. The market itself is a bit easier. I still believe that the market overall is looking quite bad. I think best case scenario, the market is going to come up to either fill this gap or come up to like this 394. Like that's the best case scenario, and then probably make it lower. And that's best case, right? We can also just not even go there and come straight down Monday and Tuesday or something like that, right? That is very possible. But Tesla's in a bit of a, it's like it's just doing its own thing. It's almost like it's its own indice. Like it doesn't care what the market's doing. It's just doing its own thing, right? Like who cares what SPY and QQQ are doing? I'm in my own little game here. And that's kind of what it feels like with Tesla sometimes. And in this case, this is one of those times. So this is why it's extremely hard to predict what's going to happen next. But pretty much the way you want to look at it is look at it on two major levels, right? The first and foremost is going to be, if you want to look at it from a bullish perspective, well, there's not much to look at. I'll be completely honest with you. It does look a little bit bearish, right? You can even argue that this is a potential head and shoulders once again being played out on the 1 hour. This could be the left shoulder. This up here is the head, and this right here we're pretty much forming the right shoulder. You can easily make that argument, right? Easily. So that's not good for the bulls, right? That's a bear thing. And for the other thing the bears want to look at and potentially, look to play to kind of confirm the breakdown is going to be a breakdown of this potential channel or bear flag, if you will, that we might be in, right? And that would essentially mean that if Tesla ever falls below pretty much back under 300, like 301 is already starting it, but anything below like even 300 now, especially, it's probably going to start, making its way down and trending downwards for, the next day or two or something like that. That's for the bears. The bulls, you pretty much want at the very least, like bare minimum, to even start potentially talking about a potential, like a bullish perspective, in my opinion. Of course, not financial advice, make your own decisions. 305 to 306, you want this to get cleared one more time and to try and invalidate this potential head and shoulders. If we can clear 306, let's just say, to make it simple, that would potentially like invalidate this, head and shoulders that is potentially setting up here, right? So that's something else to consider, of course, as well. So, that's just kind of how I'm seeing it. Again, I am more personally biased towards the downside, not necessarily because I want to buy. I mean, I do want to buy and I do want to sell puts and everything. Don't get me wrong. Of course I do. But just from technical standpoint, there's a bunch of things pointing to the upside. There's a bunch of things pointing to the downside. If I had to, choose, again, I would choose the downside personally. Mainly because I also think the market has just a lot more downside. And I do think at some point Tesla is going to be following this market. Like, as much as it's trying to not at the moment, again, it could also be because today was opex and there was just an insane amount of options expiring, especially for something like Tesla, especially maybe even before the stock split, people had, those 40 to 50 day options that they bought, the calls maybe even, right? That could be expiring today. So there's a lot of, stuff that could have, directed its movement today just based on that alone, which is not really like doesn't have like a good longevity to it, if that makes sense, for now at least. So again, we'll see what happens. Again, the bulls, they want to see 305 to 306 cleared. The bears don't want to see that cleared, and they pretty much want to see it back under 300, which to me would at the very least signify that we are going to be making our way back down to around 392-ish, 393 at the very least. And then if that breaks, that's when, in my opinion, the true move will, or should, I guess, start again. We'll see. Tesla is a monster of itself, right? It really is. That's what sometimes people say for Tesla. It's just hard to trade it. You just want to just buy and hold. If it goes down, buy some more. If it keeps going down, buy some more. And that's essentially all you want to do with Tesla, because sometimes it can be this weird little stock, I guess. So we'll see what happens with that, but that's kind of what I'm seeing at the moment. One other potential thing is that, the bulls can actually make an argument that there's a potential inverse head and shoulders setting up here. I personally wouldn't make this argument. And the only reason I wouldn't make this argument is because this is usually a reversal. To me, overall Tesla is still in more of an uptrend than it is in a downtrend for now. So to me, the fact that there's an inverted head and shoulders, which is a bullish pattern setting up here, isn't all that, I wouldn't put too much weight on it, because to me, I want to see something like this, like down here, after a massive downtrend, because then that signals a reversal. This happening in an already arguable short-term uptrend doesn't make sense. Essentially, it does not as much weight put onto it, in my opinion, as it is when you're in a downtrend, right? So that's just something else to consider, right? Keep that in mind, guys. That is something important. It's still something, I guess, but I wouldn't put too much weight on it personally. You can if you want, of course. You're free to do make your own decisions as you are. However, with that being said, something that you can potentially put a little bit of more weight on, however, is the ultimate inverted head and shoulders that you can make an argument for, which, let's do it on the weekly. It might be a little bit easier, but you can essentially make an argument that there is a massive inverted head and shoulders. Actually, we'll do daily setting up, which is going to be this one right here. So we have the potential left shoulder right here. We have the potential head right here. And then potentially we have the shoulder setting up somewhere around here. So if Tesla comes down to pretty much around 250, let's say roughly, give or take, I would say around 250. That potentially, if that holds, and especially if that holds, 250, very, very important, 250 to 260. Actually, 255 to 250, somewhere in that general range, however. If that holds, the bulls can also make an argument that this is an actual potential valid inverted head and shoulders. That's a bullish pattern. This one you can make an argument for, because you can argue that this is an overall major downtrend that we're still, relatively in, on the longer time frame. So that could definitely be an argument. We'll get it, we'll see when the time comes. If it does get to this area, I will personally start, buying a fair amount, in my opinion. Because I do personally believe that there is a chance that this happens. Like, I still think that, there is still definitely a chance Tesla comes down all the way, to maybe low 200s, maybe even like worst case scenario 150. That's like worst case in my opinion though. But I still wouldn't be surprised if Tesla comes down to 200, maybe even like 185. However, there is definitely a possibility that this is the low that Tesla gets. And this is just an overall inverted head and shoulders that just ends up blasting off, and we start going up from there. And I don't want to miss it. So I will definitely be looking to size in here, and we'll go from there and we'll see what happens. But that's essentially what I'm seeing, guys, at the very moment. Next week should be interesting as well. I think next week could be quite a painful week for the market. Who knows if Tesla will follow, because Tesla seems to be just kind of doing its own thing. But again, like I said yesterday, sometimes Tesla does this thing where it's almost like, a bunch of steam in a pot with no like air to, or no hole for the steam in the air, and for the pressure essentially to escape. Sometimes it does this, and this to me seems like one of those situations where it's just a lot of pressure being built in right now, and it could explode. I personally think to the downside, and if it does, it could be a pretty quick and violent downside move. It's happened before, it could happen again. Another thing you can make an argument for is the fact that Tesla, even though in the 1 hour, for instance, which I like as a time frame, technically set a higher low. The RSI set a lower low, not a massive lower low, but a lower low nonetheless, considering the stock itself made a decent higher low. That is something else to consider as well. So we'll see what happens, guys. I'm personally excited. I personally want it to fall, because I cannot wait to sell some puts against Tesla and start entering some positions. Because I am getting bored of waiting, I'll be completely honest. But it is what it is. Sometimes you got to be patient. But that's what I'm seeing. Let me know what you guys think down below, and I'll see you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend. Peace.